The following broadcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. While Kirk Shepard is a therapist, he's probably not your therapist, so this production should not be considered a replacement for therapy. If you are in need of professional counseling, please use a resource like psychologytoday.com, your primary care physician, or one of the many online therapy services available. If you are in crisis or having a psychological emergency, please seek assistance from your closest emergency room. And now, happy Monday! Happy Monday, everybody! Welcome to the show. My name is Kirk Shepard. This is Monday morning. Happy Monday is the show, and we're here to talk about three things. Normally, affirmation, gratitude, and productivity. Not necessarily in that order, and not just those things, but that's typically how we spend our time together on this program. I am doing this one today as audio only. I wanted to try that out and see if it speeds up the workflow and if you folks had any opinion about it. So I think a lot of my folks who are watching or listening are doing so the audio version, and so the video version, which is a lot of work, I'll be honest, to create all the graphics and do all the things, may not be the most practical solution. And if I can just do an audio version with all the bells and whistles and all the features that come with that, then we might be better off than all the work I put into the video version. So we'll see. Give your feedback to me. You can email me at info@kirkshepard.com or kirk@kirkshepard.com. I don't even remember. What is the address? Go to kirkshepard.com and you can email me from there and let me know what you think. Or I'll put, so if you're listening to on Spotify, I'll put a Q&A in there for you to respond to. I'm a little out of breath because I just got back from the store and I had to carry my groceries up. But I also had a very interesting experience, sort of traumatic experience, at McDonald's this morning. So I want to unpack this and process it while it's still fresh. I went in and ordered on the kiosk because that's how you have to do it now. And I wanted to sit down and relax before I went to the grocery because I know that you're not supposed to go to the grocery when you're hungry. So I ordered from the kiosk. I got my order in. I sat down, took one of the table tents, and was just waiting patiently. And 10 minutes into it, I started to get a little more impatient, but I still waited. And then finally, I heard the girl at the counter yell my name. She said, "Kirk." And I got up and said, "I need a cup and I need a tray. This is for here." No one paid attention to me. They just ignored me completely. So I said it again. And still no acknowledgement, nobody seemed to even look at my direction. So I raised my voice and said, "Excuse me." And I got a little terse, I'm sure, because I was annoyed. But nobody was paying attention. Well, the manager, an African-American woman, and I'll bring that up and only tell you that for a reason in a minute, started yelling at me not to treat her staff that way. And I explained that I was trying to get their attention, that I was ignored and no one was paying attention to me. And she insisted that I was not going to talk to them that way. And then she threw me out. She threw me out of the store. She told me I had to leave. And she threatened to have me escorted out, which I've never been treated that way in my life. Was I loud and was I probably angrier than I intended? Yes, because I was hungry and I was being ignored. Those are two big triggers for me. I know that. But the way she reacted was unhinged. And while I was filling up my Coke, my cup, she's still screaming, "Get out, get out." She was off the chain. So I have messaged corporate and just explained the situation to them. I don't want anything, but I am a little bit afraid to return to that store given how off the chain this woman was. Now, she wouldn't tell me her name, and the reason why I brought up her race, and normally I didn't in the message to the manager, to the corporate, but I brought it up here because as a therapist and somebody who looks at all angles of situations and has empathy for people, I do wonder how much some of this social stuff was at play here. So, listen, the store was extremely busy. The drive-thru was wrapped around the building. They're getting ready to remodel their lobby at that particular store, and so there aren't very many parking spaces. There were several folks stacked at the counter. People were not happy they had to use the kiosk and were already complaining. I heard the manager yelling at one of her staff for being late and talking to them like they were the worst person ever to walk on the planet. She was very passionate, and I wonder if the stress was getting to her. I felt bad for her. I did appreciate that she was advocating for her employees. I thought that was a great thing. Any other situation, I would have been very happy to see that she was standing up for her staff, but I wasn't mistreating anybody. I just was getting their attention. And I wonder, too, also, is there a race dynamic here? I don't know. I mean, you never know in these things, right? So we're talking about trauma today. And trauma can be multifaceted. And I believe there's a case to be made that trauma can be racial, that you experience trauma if you are a minority or grow up in poverty or have cultural things happen to you. And so I wonder, was she triggered in this moment by all the stress and by having a large white man yelling to get their attention? Was that impactful for her based on cultural trauma or other kinds of trauma? Who knows, right? And again, I'm not angry anymore now that I've got out of the store and calmed down. I was mostly kind of shocked at the overreaction to my request for a cup. And I won't be going back there anytime soon. And I fully admit that I was terse when I said it. And I said, "Excuse me, I need my." I was loud, and there was an edge to my voice because no one was paying attention. And if anybody knows me, they know one of the big things to get me riled up is to ignore me. So anyway, that happened. If we hear back from corporate, I'll keep you posted. I don't want anything from them. I don't think there's anything that can be done to make it right, other than maybe addressing her anger issues or getting her some more help for her staffing problems. But boy, the days of the customer always being right, which, by the way, I worked retail. That's not true, and I never believed it. But I don't think that I was treated professionally, at the very least. But the part about being threatened with escorted out of the store is the part that really upset me. I've never been threatened to have to be escorted out or, trespassed or arrested or whatever she was thinking over just raising my voice to get someone's attention. But anyway, that's the deal. That's what happened today. Hey, last week we went to Cedar Point. Had a great time. Connie and I were there for 3 nights, and we had a fantastic trip up. Make sure you check out kirkandconnie.com and listen to our podcast where we talked about things we're looking forward to. And then this week on Friday, you'll be hearing one we recorded in the car about our top 10 favorite Walt Disney World rides. So that's coming up this week on kirkandconnie.com. Cedar Point was great. The weather was nice. It was humid, but not super hot. We had a couple of relaxing days. I got up in the morning and looked at the sunrise. Had breakfast at the Grand Pavilion, which is a new thing. All in all, it was a pretty good relaxing vacation weekend, and I'm glad that we did it. Okay, let's talk about our word for the day. The word for the day is trauma. Trauma. I don't have the drum roll. For some reason, my buttons aren't lit up here for our sound effects, but we really need those because even though I'm not doing video, I still want you to be able to feel engaged in the broadcast. And so, let's see. Which one of these buttons is my word of the day? Here it is. There it is. Word of the day. Trauma. But we're also talking still in the theme of alignment. So last week, we didn't have one. 2 weeks ago, we talked about aligning your head and your heart and your inner monologue and how important that is and how important it is to feel in alignment. Well, I've done a lot more thinking about this. I've done some more writing about it and had some realizations this week about how trauma can impact your ability to be in alignment. So when trauma occurs, and let's define trauma first, right? Trauma is traditionally when you feel as if you are in grave danger or witness something that puts someone else in grave danger. That's the old school tradition of what trauma is. But I think trauma can be expanded now. And I have colleagues who would say that they think trauma is anything less than nurturing when it comes to parenting. And I think that might be a stretch as well. But trauma is anything that takes away your power. That's how I would define it. A situation where you lose power can be traumatic. It doesn't always have to be traumatic, but it can be. For instance, I lost my power today when I was threatened to be thrown out of the store. That was a loss of power. But it's not traumatic. I'm not going to have nightmares about that. Although, I will say this. I do dream sometimes when I have unresolved conflict and not being able to have a civil conversation with that manager where things were resolved properly will bother me. But it's not trauma. So trauma is when you lose power. Well, if you lose power, you feel a loss of control. When you're out of control, you're also out of alignment. Because in order to be authentic and to live aligned and authentic and real and vulnerable, you must feel powerful. You must feel in control. And so no matter what the trauma is, whether it's some kind of abuse that happens to you, whether it's some sort of witness to violence, whatever it is that makes you feel like you're not in control, that can impact your ability to align. I talked about that today on the blog over at kirkshepherd.com, the Substack link there. So I think that there are several ways to heal from trauma, and you can read about those more in depth over there. And you can also reach out. But therapy is a big one, right? But also writing about it, journaling about it, takes away the power of the trauma. It's also important for you to do gratitude work. And I don't want to be minimize people's traumas. I don't ever want to be thought of as somebody who supports toxic positivity, as it's known, where we're ignoring the negative. But I do think that focusing on positives and focusing on gratitude specifically can help somebody heal. Because while, yes, trauma is terrible and your life can be miserable as a result, we don't want to stay there. And in order to be proactive, we need to start looking for things to be thankful for. I recommend a daily gratitude practice where you find one thing each day that you're thankful for that is unique to that day and specific. And that forces you to stay in a positive headspace because all day long you are looking for what you're going to be thankful for at the end of the day. I think it helps. I also think that support with people who are safe is an important thing for folks who are trying to heal from trauma. Surrounding yourself with people who are positive, who are supportive, who are empathetic, who are kind, that's important. And I think that the purpose of life is connection. And I think that one of the 5 self-care basics is connection with others. And so trauma can be healed through a combination of support, unpacking and taking the power away, whatever method that is, whether it's talk therapy, journaling, other types of non-traditional therapy or exercises, gratitude work, and more. Now, some folks respond really well to EMDR. I'm not trained in that particular therapeutic tool, but I heard really good things about it. And sometimes that can be a nice thing to go do, is to go to a therapist who specializes in EMDR, which is the eye movement, rapid desensitization stuff, where they can take your memories and sort of take away the power through actual brain stuff. And that's another option for you too. So, trauma is something that can help misalign us because we have lost our power. We got to reclaim our power. And in order to do that, the other thing we have to do is affirmation and self-care. So, if we were to talk about self-care, we would definitely think about our 5 basics. I don't have my sound effects. My buttons are not labeled. I don't understand why I don't have my buttons to help me with the things that I need. This is frustrating. Technology is great when it works so well. We don't need the stinger for us to start talking about self-care. I think there are 5 self-care basics, right? There is number 1, body movement. Number 2, sleep. Number 3, body fuel. Number 4, interpersonal connection. Number 5, sunlight. That's not any sort of order. They're all equally important. So self-care requires us to focus on those 5 things. You also can do things like massages and pedicures, which I had a great pedicure last weekend at a new men's salon in Hyde Park. It was really good. Evelyn was amazing. So self-care can include those things, but those are self-indulgence more than self-care, and I'm a big fan of self-indulgence. Self-care and self-indulgence is not selfish. So 5 basics. Again, let's talk through sleep, body fuel, body movement, sunlight, and interpersonal connection. Those are the 5 self-care basics. Are you doing those? How are you doing with those? Take an inventory today and ask yourself, how am I doing? And then affirmation-wise, what are you doing to treat yourself nicely? Is it verbal? Do you need to hear yourself say out loud positive, nice things to yourself? Do you need to read affirmative statements that empower you on Instagram, for instance? There are several great affirmation accounts. How are you doing affirmation, finding affirmation? Are you rewarding yourself for a job well done? Are you don't just do performance-based stuff, though, because we get into a trap of thinking that the only reason to affirm us is if we perform well. If you do perform well, there's nothing wrong with affirming yourself, but I think you need to make sure that you understand your value and worth comes because you exist. Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. Kirk says, I exist, therefore I have worth. It's an important philosophical distinction. So let's hit those things real quick. Trauma can be healed through journaling and other ways of reducing the power and impact of the trauma. Talk therapy, which requires supportive therapy and supportive friend groups, supportive family. If you don't have those things, talk with your therapist about ways you might cultivate that. You've got to find your tribe. It is out there. It's hard when you get to be an adult to find the tribe, but they are out there. Support, gratitude, self-care, affirmation. Okay? That's how we heal from trauma. All right, let's do our meditation for the day. I want you to take some deep breaths. We're going to have this music in the background to help us focus in on our breathing. So think about your breath as you breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and hold it for 3 seconds. And breathe out for 3 seconds. And again. And again. Now make sure your feet are planted firmly on the floor in a very natural yet sturdy position to center you and ground you into wherever you're sitting. Open up your body with your arms outstretched in front of you. Keep breathing. Now, think about yourself as a mighty, powerful warrior. Whatever that looks like in your mind, if that looks like a superhero, great. If that looks like a Viking, great. If that looks like just an object that floats in the air, great. Whatever it is that you find powerful, imagine that is you. And in that power, we're going to reclaim the direction of our lives. We're going to reclaim our safety. And I want you to say out loud to yourself quietly, I am powerful. I am in control of my own destiny. I have the power to make changes that are good for me. I can say no. That's a great mantra to remember and repeat. Let's say it again. I have the power to say no. I am a powerful person. Make up your own that makes sense for you, that you will say, and let's incorporate that into your daily habits and your rituals to get you motivated in the mornings to go on and take on the world in a very difficult and dark place sometimes. I am powerful. You are powerful. When you're ready, come back to us and we'll finish this thing up today. So that's trauma. Let's just scratching the surface. I want to keep working on this idea of alignment and trying to figure out ways to promote that idea and to help people come into alignment with themselves. I think the premise is going to be called soul alignment. Maybe next time we'll talk about soul resonance. We talked about that in the blog today a little bit. That's when you have a moment when you discover something that's so true that it makes you cry. And I had a therapy experience like that this last week or 2 weeks ago. You can read about that in the blog. But focus on yourself today and this week. Get things done. Be as productive as you can, knowing the weekend is always coming. There's always going to be dirty dishes, a wise housewife once told me. So you do what you can, get it done as you can, but they'll be there for tomorrow, and just make sure you're taking care of you. Self-care, self-care, self-care. Thanks so much for being with me again. Happy Monday, everybody. We will see you next week. Let me know what you think. Video okay? Or without video okay? You okay with just the audio version? We'll speed things up on my workflow, but if you really, really, really feel strongly about it, let me know. We'll go back to it, okay? We'll see you next time. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Kirk Shepard.